Welcome to the latest Wargaming idiot-proof mechanic in World of Tanks console, and it is the new Ultimate Season Pass tank, the Cobra. And yes, this tank is, as you may have expected, disgusting in some regards. Now, I'm not going to call it like blatantly, stupidly overpowered, because it's not. It's just one of those tanks that is completely annoying for like the majority of players who face it, and also when you're playing it, it can be a darn sight annoying as well. So I've played about, I don't know, 6 games at this point. All of them have been fairly decent. These are just a couple of the ones that kind of seem to be showcasing a little bit more about the vehicle and the actual characteristics of this vehicle. But we're going to get into why this tank is disgusting and why it is just so annoying. But primarily, what we've got here is a Hesh monster, and yes, it's a 4-shot autoloader that has 490 alpha damage with its Hesh rounds, meaning that you can deal 1960 alpha in one single clip. Yes, that means that it has more alpha damage than the FV4005. It's a tier lower. Remember, you do have to actually pen your shots in this thing to be able to get that damage, and it has 210mm of Hesh pen, which for the most part is similar to that of the Charioteer, so you can kind of sum that up if you've ever played that vehicle. The Hesh pen is more than enough for most tanks that you'll be facing, especially if you're coming up against tier 9s or if you're coming up against tier 8s, which, let's be honest, most people will be coming up against tier 8 vehicles in this thing, because it's a tier 9 and there's so many more players that play tier 8 in World War II. So what else do we have with regards to this tank? Well, not only does it get good, a pretty decent gun, it has a horrible aim time, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're trying to snipe with this thing, the aim time is not very nice. But what I thought would be a problem, which is the dispersion of the vehicle, is not a problem whatsoever, which is, yeah, really not something that I was expecting, and has made the tank even more OP. As you can see here on the move, this thing is actually really accurate comparatively to what you'd expect from this sort of vehicle, the kind of derp autoloader, if that makes sense, of World of Tanks console, and it's just completely not that. Now, remember, I mean, you probably should think about spending 6,000 gold, because it's going to cost you an extra 4,000 on top of the standard season pass. It's going to cost you 6,000 total for the ultimate season pass. That's how you obtain this vehicle, and you can see right here you can pump out multiple rounds onto the opponents. You saw there that the CS52 decided to take a pot shot at us, and we landed 2 shells into him within just 1.5 seconds, because don't worry, the intraclip reload of this vehicle is only 1.5 seconds, so you can pump out damage against all of these opponents super quick. So it takes you 4.5 seconds to deal with nearly 2,000 alpha with this vehicle. Yeah, that is beyond ridiculous. And the fact that Wargaming always say like, oh, we don't want the fact that people are going to be able to one-shot people or one-clip people, and then they have tanks like the Cobra in the game. I'm not entirely sure that their statement is all too correct, and you can see that with this vehicle. You're seeing here the kind of sheer attacking prowess that this vehicle can have. There's not really too much to this tank. It's just a case of wait 45 seconds, unload for 4.5 seconds, then wait 45 seconds, make sure that you're near your opponents, deal your 4.5 seconds 2,000 alpha damage, and then you can leave again and deal whatever damage you want to subsequently. And you can see here a nice couple of pens on the enemy vehicles, and literally that is pretty much the game over. It's very simple, this vehicle, and super annoying for tanks like the STRV. So yeah, I don't know what you guys are going to make of this vehicle. Of course, this is a fairly quick video just showcasing 2 replays. We've got another one coming up right now. So the next replay is, of course, Malinovka, and it's probably a map that is fairly okay for this tank, because you can use gun depression with this vehicle. It gets really, really fantastic gun depression. It gets a pretty good turret if you're using it effectively, if you're aiming down at your opponents, like from a slope, if you're above them. It makes it really hard for them to hit the cupola, which is a weak point of the vehicle, and additionally, if you're coming up against tier 10s with premium rounds, they will probably go through the front of the Cobra's turret, and the hull armour is much like the Swedish tank line. It looks kind of like that, although it is British. This vehicle, it gets penned very easily. If anyone sees your hull armour, you're going to get penned pretty much every single time. The upper plate can be a little bit bouncy against tier 8s and tier 9s, but altogether, yeah, this thing is not a mouse at all by any means. But yeah, you can still have some good games. You can see here the enemy Cobra trying to go forward. And we're going to try and hit some shells into the lower plate of the enemy Cobra here, and we do land all 3, and there you go, 1,000 damage, and that's using the heat rounds, because we want to give a little bit of diversity, see which way you should probably play this. Remember that if you don't actually pen with the heat rounds, you're not going to be dealing any damage, whereas if you are using the HESH rounds on this thing, even if you don't manage to pen, you'll still deal damage, because we get the balanced HE version of World of Tanks compared to that of PC. So beware when deciding to play this vehicle between your choice of ammunition, because you can pick the HESH rounds, you could pick the heat rounds. There's really down to your personal preference. Do you want more consistent damage where you can guarantee penetrations with the 268mm of standard pen with the heat rounds here, or are you more inclined to go with the HESH rounds where you might be able to deal a little bit more kind of the damage that you want to see? You want to see 490 rolls, you want to see 500 rolls, so that sort of thing with this vehicle, and when you're smacking out multiple of them, then yeah, it's very, very fun to play. But overall, this tank, in my opinion, is definitely one of those idiot-proof tanks. It's a case of like, I'm going to wait 45 seconds, then I'm just going to end up YOLOing, because that's what pretty much 99% of console players actually do in the game. They think, I can just take this tank out, and then they YOLO in, and of course ultimately get taken out afterwards. But that's probably what you're going to be seeing with the meta for the next couple of weeks as people pick up this vehicle within the game. I've already seen tons of the Cobra within the matchmaker, so if you're thinking about trying to counter these things, which I guarantee people will be thinking about, maybe you want to play things like the FE 4005, because of the hull armour of this thing can be penned with HESH, so yeah, this is definitely an opportunity to bring out some of your FE215B183s, or the FE 4005, or the Jaegeru, or the Object 268 with HE, because you can probably still pen it. And so generally, I don't think many people are going to have a major problem with the game balance being broken with this, but it's just one of those annoying tanks that you know at some point down the line, someone's just going to YOLO you and full clip you in your tank, even though you're a tier higher than it at tier 10. So just beware of the Cobra. You know, if you start getting pumped for 500 alpha every 1.5 seconds, it's probably one of these things, and it's probably going to hit you multiple times. Just remember that if you do give them the kind of tracks of the vehicle, then you're going to be able to come out more on top. You'll see here one quick thing before we kind of move on with this commentary is that the Tyrant there was sat behind the wooden building, and that's the problem with using the HE or the HESH rounds and the heat rounds, because both of them get stopped by objects, so you cannot shoot through things with this vehicle. It's not possible, literally. The HESH rounds will just explode on impact, and the heat rounds will just not work. They'll get absorbed by whatever it is that you're shooting. So fences, buildings, anything like that, you're not able to shoot through with this vehicle. So you have to have the open shots onto the opponents that you're going to be facing. And so yeah, beware when playing this vehicle. Now, we've done 1700 alpha. We've now got a Progetto that's kind of pushed up a little bit too far. You're seeing the great gun depression of the Cobra. You're seeing the accuracy in between the shells. And of course, taking out a Progetto 65 from almost full health. Wouldn't be like a tier 9 to just basically clip a full health tier 10 almost. And we definitely could have full healthed the Progetto if we had the other round in the magazine, but we didn't need it anyway, so we just shut the probably 90% of his hit points out of the game. This is the point in the game where it becomes to turn into a bit of a shambles. And you're seeing here a pretty, well, I'm not going to say clever because it's just a standard thing that you can take advantage of yourself, and that is just putting buildings in between you and the opponents that could potentially be able to hit you. Another reason why this vehicle is kind of troll is, yes, you will only be able to hit people when they are not behind fences, and you just saw there another example of when it kind of came back to bite me. Now, we should have actually taken that T100 out, but we only managed to deal 40 damage with the Hesh rounds for some reason onto him, but there you go. He manages to take us out, but we have 3,500 damage, and hopefully it showcases the good, the bad, the Cobra, and of course the new idiot-proof mechanic in World of Tanks console. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to check out my unfiltered opinion on the game right now on screen, and of course subscribe if you do enjoy these videos and you're not already. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.